I'm here with Marinos Glitsos, ViolinMaker from Minnesota. I'm Thomas Yee, founder of Bayfine Strings Violin Shop, and we are here in the workshop gallery.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, it has a lot of power, and it actually sounds different in this room than when I was playing it before.
Yeah.
How did it sound to you?
Well, I mean, you sound great. I think we could give you a shoebox with strings, and you sound fantastic. I have the fortune of being 3 inches away from you as you're playing, and so I think I'm getting the effect that the player would have, which is actually not a usual place for me to be as the maker.
True.
And it's powerful. You know, it's a really powerful kind of bright but like resonant sound.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You've made a beautiful violin here, made on an original model that Marinos had come up with. Can you tell us a little bit about the model? Like, are there specific influences in the styling, etc.?
Yeah. So it's a personal model, and it's influenced by, the canon of historically accepted great makers, Stradivari, Guarneri, and what we've come to accept and appreciate from everybody. And after a certain point in making, I got to a point where, it's either trying to copy other makers or trying to make something that, spoke to me. And so what I ended up developing were these personal models, and this violin is the current culmination of that. And so it borrows kind of and steals influences from all of the makers and details that I really respect and appreciate and love, but kind of with no consideration for a specific model or maker at any point. So there's things from Peter Mantua, there's things from Strad, from Amati, and it's been done just to satisfy my own impulses, both emotionally, artistically, psychologically, etc.
Well, I think it's a successful model. It has a really great sound. It's got a very lively response. It has a medium full arching, which is what you don't see all the time in contemporary instruments, but it's I think it's nicely executed. Also, just tell me a little bit about where you had gone to school for your violin making. And
well, I was born and raised in Minnesota. And in my hometown, there's actually an internationally renowned gut string manufacturer and lute maker. And so after I finished college, I had done a degree in music performance. I knew I wanted to get into violin making, and by a series of really just odd circumstances at a dinner party, I was hired out as a musician. I ended up sitting next to this man that I later found out was an organ builder, and that's led to a conversation that I was interested in instrument making, and he was like, well, you should meet Dan Larson, who is the manufacturer of these gut strings and vihuelas and lutes and Renaissance instruments. And so being an 18-year-old kid, I was like, I'm going to email him, and I was like, of course he wants me in his workshop. And Dan was actually the kind of person that was like, if this is something you're passionate about, like, come on in. And I did a 2-year apprenticeship with him, and I developed foundation of my tool skills. I made my first violin, and then from there, I went to Utah to the ViolinMaking School of America, and I studied there and completed their program. And kind of immediately afterwards, my wife and I knew we were going to go back to the Midwest, and Minnesota was always home. And so we ended up in the Twin Cities, and I worked for John Waddle for 2 years. And then I joined my good friend Peter Bingen at the Paul A. Schmidt Violin Shop, and I was there for a little over 5 years.
Wow.
And then transitioned to just making after that. I'd been making the entire time, and it got to the point where the things I appreciated about my job were more and more, the solo making.
Yeah,
And
solo
so,
making.
yeah, to fully devote to that is something I'm really excited and happy to be doing.
That's great. Yeah, I can see that you're passionate about what you do, and there are so many nice things in regards to the setup. We've had a lot of conversations about that, about small things that you can do also to optimize the sound of an instrument. So I've enjoyed hearing about those things and conversing with you about it. So.
And we all have our like bag of tricks that we use for adjustments, and today when we were doing some of those to find out that some of the more obscure ones that we actually have them together, it's really reaffirming and validating that we both find this leads to X result, and so that was really fun to do together.
Oh yeah, it was definitely really nice. It was also really nice to hear about your making inspirations and your story. So thanks for coming into the shop today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.